Welcome back for another video. 5 free transfers are a myth. We're never going to actually have 5 rolled, are we? We're back with the team selection video, and I've made one transfer ahead of Gameweek 3 and I've got another one banked. Let's run through the team selection for Gameweek 3 and transfer plans for the coming weeks. Starting off with a review of last Gameweek then. I finished with 72 points all out, which was a green arrow, albeit still in the millions. What I will say is, this early in the season, don't sweat over rank. There's a ton of chips used already. I mean, the lowest top 10k score last game was 29, which was a red arrow from 6k to 4 mil, and it just as quickly goes the other way. So what were some of the highlights of the game week? Well, Smith Rowe coming up with a 10 pointer was huge, snatching 3 bonus points, and he's got a price rise to 5.6 mil now. A couple of clean sheets at the back from Trent and Borrow as well. I decided to ride out Quantz's price fall with a view to avoiding what would have almost certainly been a hit in Game Week 4 otherwise. I think a lot of people are going to be taking hits Game Week 4 to fit in Salah, Haaland, maybe Palmer. A 1 pointer from Henderson who's been a huge disappointment. The transfer window closes before the Game Week 3 deadline, so let's just hope Guehi's still a Palace player by then. As a reminder, there's more midweek games on today, so wait until tonight if you are going to make an early transfer, just in case anyone you own might be affected in those games. A Haaland hat-trick as captain was a massive relief, and well played if you triple captain him. It was the most triple captain usage in a single game week in FPL history. There will be other single game week opportunities if you are considering it now. Newcastle haven't clicked yet, and a blank from Isak also disappointed him. He did score a brace against Spurs in the same fixture last season, so I'm going to give him another week. The points dodging from Bruno and Eze has been something else. 3.1 expected goal involvement between them and no returns. Quantz was named on the bench for Liverpool and he was an unused substitute. Fortunately, I did pick Dunk over Barco and Concert as my other 4.5ml defender, so although the price drop last week sucked, it's not a pressing issue for me. So let's have a look at your highs and lows from Game Week 2. George sent his team in, he scored 56 points and he said, I couldn't get Haaland in and I paid the price for it. Foden and Nkunku are huge disappointments. Rob says 100 club and he knocked it out of the park. He got 114 points. He triple captained Haaland and he also had double digit returns from Smith Rowe, Gordon, Palmer and Raya. This one's crazy. Malop finished with 125 points and he says, if I had Gabriel instead of Vardy, I would have been the highest score of the game week. Painful one from Ollie who got 56 and he said, almost got more points on the bench than on the bleeding pitch. He had Raya, João Pedro and Johnson on his bench. And lastly, Vikier, who nailed it. He scored 125 points as well. He went triple captain Haaland and he also had Palmer, Smith Rowe and Raya. Thanks all for sending in. And since you all liked this segment last week, we'll make it a recurring theme each week, taking a quick look at your highs and lows. Let's move on to the team for Game Week 3. In goal, I'm giving Valdemarson a start. I'm almost certain that Flecken starts, but again, for the tiny chance that he comes in, I might as well give him a start, since Brentford are home to Southampton. In all likelihood, Henderson's going to auto sub on. The only risk in doing something like this is if Flecken were to start but also come off injured after 30 minutes, blocking a clean sheet opportunity for Valdemarson. As we said earlier, Henderson's been a big disappointment so far. Is it just me that's always struggled getting the goalkeeper picks right? I've got some bad memories of going Pickford Game Week 1 last season, who by the way didn't have bad fixtures and he did go on to have an excellent season, just not from the start. It'd be peak FPL for Henderson to follow that same path and start returning by the time many of us have gotten rid of him. I'm playing a 3-5-2 again this week, and at the back it's Trent, Konsa and Pedro Porro. So Konsa comes in for his first start of the season in the team, away at Leicester this week. If you need a cheap defender, he ticks all the boxes, he's very affordable, he's got 4 decent fixtures ahead where you'd be comfortable starting him in all 4. There isn't a Nedeljkovic, as Matty Cash is out injured for a month reportedly. However, keep an eye on what Villa do in the transfer market, as they might sign Gertrude, who's a right back as well, and would probably end his short run as a 4 mil option. Aston Villa are joint third on the clean sheet probabilities this week, given a 34% chance. Liverpool are away at Old Trafford this week for a derby match. 1.68 expected goal involvement from 2 games from Trent, which is higher than the likes of Jota, Salah, Son, Eze and Palmer. Though of course his is almost entirely expected assist, but nonetheless it goes to show what a ridiculous pick he is for 7 mil, basically a midfielder that gets 4 clean sheet points. Data table here from Fantasy Football Scout, link below to join. All my tables are public in the members area. They're still doing a 40% off as well, so take advantage while you can. Liverpool's good fixture run isn't over for a while, so it's not too late to grab Trent, and I like Robertson as well as a pick. He's been coming off early for Bradley every game so far, which might be a blessing if at some point they do concede, after which point his clean sheet's locked in. And honestly, I'm not expecting a clean sheet from Pedro Porro this week, playing away at Newcastle. Feels like a game that could have quite a few goals, and he's got a very good chance of being involved. Seems to have let his foot off the gas a bit last match, maybe playing slightly cautiously from that minor injury he picked up the match before. The plan is to bench him for the Arsenal game, Game Week 4. Onto the midfield, which is Rodgers, Saka, Eze, Smith Rowe and Fernandes. Can Smith Rowe deliver again in Gameweek 3? It's a decent fixture facing Ipswich, who are bottom for expected goals conceded after 2 games, but we can't draw conclusions this early given their opening 2 fixtures. The data tables become increasingly useful by week once we get a better data set to form our decisions on, so as the season goes on we'll be able to draw more concrete opinions. Though it isn't surprising to see the early trend of Liverpool, City and Arsenal towards the top here. The Agate signing could be huge for Man United, combined with De Ligt, who should be due a start very soon. I'm wondering if a viable strategy early this season is going to be going for 3 premiums and then have several budget picks. For example, going for 3 of Palmer, Salah, Saka and Haaland, and then have a few budget picks like João Pedro, Smith Rowe, Rodgers and Semenyo in combination. On the one hand, having 3 budget picks is quite inflexible because you don't have the various price points covered, but in my case it would allow for coverage with 3 premium assets plus Trent. We'll talk more on transfer plans in a minute. So Rodgers has joined my team in place of Nkunku. I decided to move early in this one to avoid the Nkunku price fall, who's completely dead as a pick now after the bench in Gameweek 2. I mean, there is a chance he starts in Gameweek 3, but I'm going to cut my losses on this one. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts in Chelsea's Europa Conference League game Thursday night. Villa have had 2 difficult opening fixtures, and I'm not at all put off by his 2 blanks. He's cheap, he's passing the eye test, good underlying data. 4 chances created, including 1 big chance, and that one last match Watkins really should have buried, so he could have got an assist. I also think Bailey, Smith Rowe, Gibbs White are all sound Nkunku replacements. I've already got Smith Rowe in my case, and there's probably others I'm forgetting here. If you've got Nkunku, who are you replacing him with, or are you going to keep him for another week? This could be Bruno's last week in the team, and it is a tough fixture. I've got a difficult decision to make in Gameweek 4, as I can either sell Saka or Bruno to get Salah in. Now Saka would have Spurs and Man City, while Bruno would have Southampton, and then maybe sell before the Palace game. Only Haaland's got higher expected goal involvement after the first 2 games, which underlines just how unfortunate Bruno owners have been. It's not like he's been nowhere near the points, and that's just how FPL goes sometimes, to be honest. You'd be on more points if he'd pick Basuma instead, he didn't even play in Gameweek 1. And to add salt to the wound, he's fallen in price as well, so let's just hope for a Bruno haul. And Trent to get an attack in return as well, since they're playing each other. Probably a bit optimistic. Saka gets the vice captaincy, home to Brighton this game week. 2 goals, 1 assist from the first 2 games, same as Salah. I've really been impressed by Brighton. I don't think this is going to be an easy game necessarily. And their player is currently top of my watch list, because after Arsenal, Brighton are home to Ipswich and Forest back to back. So João Pedro, Mitoma and Minte are the 3 I'm looking at. And I've got some coverage from a defensive perspective with Dunk on the bench. Eze completes the midfield 5, and in typical FPL fashion he was outstanding midweek in the League Cup. He scored a class solo goal against Norwich. I'm taking encouragement from just how chaotic the Chelsea vs Wolves game was though, finishing 6-2. I wouldn't mind a high scoring game here at all. Though as a Palmer non-owner, Eze's gains could be undone there. Eze's registered the most shots of any player so far, so I've done well to pick the 2 biggest points dodgers from the first 2 games. I'm more than willing to stay patient with him. If anything, he could be the best Nkunku replacement if you've got enough money in the bank. Leicester home in Gameweek 4 as well has got goals written all over it. Up top it's Haaland and Isak, and Haaland gets the armband once again. It'd be madness not to. Even if he blanked last game, to be honest, he'd still be my captain. He's about to creep past 60% ownership as well, so maybe we'll get 16 mil Haaland next season if he pushes too high ownership again. Hopefully City have got Foden back, especially for those of you that have got him. Very unlucky for him to miss out completely last match unexpectedly. I'm also waiting to see when Rodri's back, and we should get an update in Friday's press conference. So Isak's home to Spurs, and as I mentioned earlier, in the same fixture last season, Isak bagged a brace against them. There's a few picks like Eze, Isak and Bruno where I think patience is going to be key. It's not worth panic selling these guys just yet for me anyway. Newcastle's transfer window has been a quiet one, and I'm sure fans aren't happy about it. And quite a lot of dead weight on the books still as well. I was hoping they would have made a few attacking signings to help Isak out. It could be his last week in the team though, as a possible downgrade to free up funds for Salah Gameweek 4. On the bench it's Henderson, Dunk, Quansah and Canham. Got 1.5 mil on the bank after the Nkunku to Rodgers move. And as you can see, from Gameweek 4 Dunk swaps in for Porro, and then I've got a call to make in Gameweek 5 with who to start between Quansah against Wolves or Dunk versus Forest. So Nkunku to Rodgers is done, and I've got another free transfer, and the plan is to roll it. So early thoughts on Gameweek 4, this is what I'm considering using Plan FPL. I can go Isak to João Pedro for those back-to-back juicy fixtures there, which frees up enough money for Saka or Bruno to Salah. So by Gameweek 4 I could have Saka, Salah and Haaland. Another option is I could go Porro down to a formal defender and then Saka to Salah. I've used Nedeljkovic as a placeholder here, but he could be any formal defender. And that does allow me to keep Isak, which will be tempting if he looks very good against Spurs. Now if I sell Bruno, then I would miss out on that Southampton fixture. But on the other hand, I would have 3 premiums in my team, and the other factor at the back of my head is, if I sell Saka for Salah in Game Week 4, then I'm booking in a Game Week 6 wildcard, as I want to have as many Arsenal players as possible for that run from Game Week 6 of Leicester and Southampton home back to back and then Bournemouth away. And if I were to sell Saka, I'd have no Arsenal players, whereas keeping Saka does give that flexibility to maybe hold the wildcard, as I could use a couple of transfers thereafter to add some Arsenal assets. Thanks very much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, hit like and make sure you're subscribing. There's some more FPL content on screen now. See you soon for the next one.